The screeching of brakes would send out a wave that all too soon would reach us all. It seemed impossible. Not this, not to him.
Gerry, Gerry, Gerry. I'd like the girls to realize that, you know, their father's death was not in vain.
Gerry spent his life fighting for people, helping people, saving people. And a guy loses his life fighting for health care benefits that the whole country is talking about now. And it's just ironic that his final act was fighting for people.
When thinking about sacrifices labor leaders make, we were having problems on the Valhalla picket line. Cars were zooming past the pickets like they weren't there. Like any leader, Gerry answered the call. He walked out on that picket line and was struck down fatally.
Somebody you miss. You don't see him anymore. You hear him. Never stop hearing his voice, though, in this garage. Never.
He had a voice that when he, hey, one time, it just boomed all over, and you just knew Gerry was there.
He defended the people here as very few people ever could.
He was the epitome of what a union representative should be. I mean, he really cared for his people.
And we were his extended family, there's no doubt about that, because he took an interest in everybody.
He was a man who accomplished more in his short life than most of us will ever accomplish in a full lifetime.
This is a story of a young emerging labor leader who put his whole heart, soul, and mind into the labor movement. In our union, there are many men and women from all kinds of backgrounds who are outstanding leaders. Gerry's life is one example of extraordinary leadership and sacrifice. As we turn the tide from mourning Gerry to celebrating his accomplishments, I hope his story will be an inspiration to all.
He always battled in what he called injustice. He hated to see anyone bothered when they shouldn't have been. He felt unfairness really drove him crazy in any manner, shape, or form.
Gerry was one of the primary stewards. I mean, he was the chief steward, and he taught the guys in this garage that lesson. If one guy has a problem, you have a problem, and everybody standing next to you has a problem. And Gerry stepped up front and took care of the problem.
He never did anything less than 100%, whether it was fighting for people in the garage or being a fireman. If he did it the very, very best he could.
Gerry carried his compassion for others to all aspects of his life. Not surprisingly, he was also hailed as a leader in his beloved volunteer fire department.
Not only was he chief of this organization, he went up through the ranks and became president of the company. And under Gerry's leadership as president, we had some of the biggest fundraisers we ever had, some Vegas nights.
When Gerry was involved with the Mountain Rescue Squad, it was a little bit exhilarating and quite a bit frightening to see someone dangling, you know, hundreds of feet off this perilous cliff was unbelievable. But he knew what he was doing.
Gerry was instrumental in setting that up and teaching everybody the ropes and the tricks of the trade. He was also involved in many of our rescues off of Hook Mountain.
He was in the Marine Corps, and after he graduated, he wrote a letter to his dad and to me, and in it he thanked us for all we had done for him, saying that he realized now that without the love and discipline that we had given him, he never would have made it, because the guys here who didn't have parents who loved and cared enough for them to discipline them are the ones who washed out they didn't make it.
He knew when somebody was good enough and confident enough to go out on their own, and he knew that the person standing right next to him maybe needed some more hand-holding.
Gerry, he raised my self-confidence level because I had none. And he really made me feel good. He taught me how to be a lineman. Taught me how to be a lineman the right way.
You're going to be a steward. You're going to deal with it. And if you don't like it later, you can, resign yourself. And it turned out that he made it enjoyable and educational.
He could be a very easy guy to get along with. He could also be a very hard man to get along with, but he was also one of the most forgiving people. He could be yelling at you one day because he was disappointed in something that you didn't do and you should have done, but the next day everything was bygones.
When we were together, it sometimes was funny because I would immediately attack his unionism and he would tell me I was exploiting the workers, and that would start the discussions.
You find out a lot about somebody when they're acting spontaneous in an argument, and he loved that. And I mean, that's the thing I miss the most in his absence is the interaction. Here was a guy you could argue with face to face, and you wouldn't get mad at each other because you were arguing your ideas.
He was great that way. If you could scream back at Gerry as loud as he was screaming at you, then he liked you. You know, then you knew that you were in his good graces. He looked for that. He thrived on getting people to that point.
When you first met Gerry, you know, I used to say, boy, this guy's more obnoxious than me, and that's quite the prize, you know.
But once you get to know him, way different story. Way different story.
When you sat down and talked to him, well, he's a big pussycat. He really is. He was a gentleman. He really was a gentleman.
So you see, in spite of all of our differences, which were in some cases legion, he was my friend, and he was a good man, and he was the kind of person that he had a personality and an empathy and a sense of relationship, which even though you thought he was dead wrong, and I often did, you loved him, and I loved him, and we cared very much for each other.
When I first met him, he was a heavy-set guy with a Marine haircut, and I had hair down in my shoulders, and he goes, "Nice to meet you, my name's Gerry Horgan, you're long-haired commie. What are you here for?" And that's how we started. And I could say there was probably never a day at work I didn't enjoy coming to work when I knew he was going to be taking care of things.
I remember coming here and seeing Jesus, everybody here is so union-oriented, so together. And I remember saying, Jesus, I'm home. I don't want to leave this place. And it was him. It was him. It was the way he got people focused. The way he ran the garage.
And that's why this garage really is such a strong garage. It's because everybody, we work together, we play together, so we know each other well.
It wasn't a unique place right away. He made it that way.
He just had this aura about him, this aura, you know. Gerry was just that type of person. He was a natural born leader.
When Gerry was about 3 years old, he had his cronies and they played in our yard, which wasn't very big. It was half the size of this living room. And that was, you had to stay there. You were just expected to stay there, or you would be punished. And one day I turned around and turned back, and they were missing. And I found them about a quarter of a mile away at the ice cream parlor, where Gerry Horgan had taken them. He thought it would be a great idea, and he figured they could get ice cream cones for nothing.
He was always the ringleader. He was always thinking. He was always leading people, but with humor.
They suspended a guy one day for wearing shorts. So the next day, 110 people come walking in here wearing shorts. Everybody's wearing shorts. And Gerry went out and bought the wildest, like Bermuda shorts. You know, like down to his knees, and Gerry had legs on him like this.
Right, so they were all teasing him about bird legs.
As far as Gerry being a leader, Gerry, you can say, had some natural attributes. He was a very intelligent man. He didn't shun responsibility. He always took it.
Nothing went on around here without Gerry's approval, which to me impressed me when I finally got to that point. It was just, I mean, at some point the foreman wouldn't do anything without contacting Gerry, and then it got to the point where the second liner wasn't going to do anything without contacting Gerry, and he was already working on a third liner by this point.
Being a labor leader also, there's more to know in a contract. A lot of people can know a contract, but you have to be able to motivate people to the point where when you're negotiating with management, it's their game. Gerry ran White Plains, you know, and that's how he did it, he was the master motivator.
When he was a freshman, he got all the fellas to bring in alarm clocks, which we found out about later when we were sent for by the prefect of discipline. Everybody brought an alarm clock, and they set it to go off at 10:30 in the morning.
Gerry was a real motivator, and he got this garage together. There's about 120 craftsmen that work in this garage, and he was able to pull the entire garage together and get them thinking union, thinking of sticking together and going ahead in one direction.
So when they saw Gerry coming, what they saw was 100 pissed off individuals standing behind him, and that was the people out here.
People could follow him. He led you often valiantly and sometimes kicking and screaming, but he led you, so he was a leader.
And one of the conflicts of being a leader is knowing how to balance the various parts of your life.
No, it wasn't love at first sight. Second sight, maybe. We enjoyed camping, and when the kids came around, spare time was spent in just enjoying them. You know, he would sit and play blocks with her and
Yeah, look at that. What, Daddy put a little one. Want to see the top?
play out in the yard and, you know, putting the swings together, and you know, he enjoyed her a lot.
He had fat cheeks, he had a big smile. He had brown, he had black eyebrows. Nose like about this up to here. And he had big ears. That's what it looked like when I was a baby.
Danielle was very tiny when Gerry was killed. She was only 7 months old.
Daddy, come back here forever.
Gerry said there was 3 important things in his life: the family, the fire service, and the union. It was tough at times. He wasn't there all the time when we needed him because he was busy helping other people. I'm not saying he neglected his family. He didn't. He'd always liked fishing since he was a little boy, and it was one of the times he said that he got to actually sit and think. And I think some of his best decisions were made while he was fishing, sitting there in peace and solitude of the lake.
Probably one of the things Gerry used to think about was his own campaign. He pulled together a team to run for business agents. They called themselves the New Blood Candidates.
Never stop thinking union.
Yeah.
I remember one thing when we were campaigning that he always wanted us to have was his little handheld tape recorder. Because he always said that there's things that you think of or something that's going to come into your brain that you're not going to remember if you're driving the car. And that's how he was. He never stopped. It never ended.
He wanted to get things done in a hurry, and he felt that he could do it. And he wanted to be part of it. As a matter of fact, he supported me, but he didn't support 3 candidates that I had. He started his own team. He had a vision, and he felt he wanted to be part of making that vision come true.
He was always fighting for the member. You know, like a lot of times, you don't want to take on the president or whatever like that, you know, being a chief steward, not Gerry.
If you have it here, he said, that's what you need. He says, up here we could teach that, but you have to have it in the heart.
Amazing grace.
No hugs, deep down, would ease our pains as we drove between the red walls of people that lined his way. And there, on a gray day, in the raindrops, we came to say goodbye.
We'll never forget him. We wear red on Thursday to symbolize 2 things: our solidarity as a union, and also as a remembrance of Gerry and all the good things that he stood for.
Gerry believed that if you were right and your cause was right, that you would win. That as long as you stuck to it, you'd win. You know, Don Quixote tilted at the windmills, but Gerry Horgan wasn't a Don Quixote because he didn't think he didn't tilt at windmills. He tilted at real injustices and righted them. And that's why people that know him, you know, loved him and remember him.
And